I'm going to talk about something that I've touched on many times, and the reason that I'm talking about it again is because we evidently have folks that haven't paid attention to perhaps all my videos, but this is about working up loads for a rifle, a bolt action rifle, a single shot rifle such as a Ruger #1, something of that sort. I've detailed this many times. We have many loading manuals put out by many different companies, bullet companies. That's a starting place. I don't go down to the minimum load in the book because I learned about 60 years ago that if I started right up there within about a grain of the top listed load or right at the top listed load, that's closer to where I was going to end up after everything was all said and done. And I've stated before that sometimes you might have to go over what is listed as the maximum load in the book. Now you've got to understand something. A maximum working load, not maximum. There's a difference between a maximum working load and a maximum load. A maximum load is overloaded. And it just so happens to be that every barrel and every chamber and all components are not the same. They vary. The same barrel manufacturer, the same caliber of barrel, the same chambering, everything else the same, does not mean that one load that shot in one rifle will shoot in the next rifle like it did in the previous rifle. I have pointed out that you need to work up about a half a grain at a time. So basically, if you start a grain under listed max in the book and you didn't get anywhere, you come up a half a grain and you come up another half a grain and you find that you're gaining in velocity, you're gaining in a little bit tighter velocity spread. I always try another half of a grain, and I might try another half of a grain more than that to get what I want. And I've detailed many times how to use a 1/10 micrometer to measure the head of the case. I had somebody call me the other day about a particular situation. It was a 7mm .08 mountain rifle, supposedly that would shoot 1-inch groups just constantly, with 3 grains under listed load in the book. Well, the guy claims to load custom ammunition. Fact is, he doesn't have a first clue what he's doing loading custom ammunition. In the first place, he'd never used a chronograph. He doesn't use a chronograph. I explained a couple of times that the only way that you get accuracy is that you have to have uniformity. And the only way that you get uniformity, you have to have a ballistics balance that gives you the uniformity to give you the accuracy. It's plain and simple. You don't have a 50-foot velocity spread and get half minute of angle groups. Something preferably under about 12 or 15, preferably single digit spread of velocity. That's where accuracy comes in. So anybody that is loading, you're loading in the dark. Invest in a chronograph. I've done so all my life. All components, every aspect of all components are very expensive. And there's no point in a hunting rifle to do with a hunting rifle that you need to shoot more than 3 rounds to determine a load for your hunting rifle. 3 rounds and let the barrel cool, 3 rounds, let the barrel cool, and I almost invariably shoot the cool part of the day because I don't want sunshine on my barrel. I don't want mirage, I don't want heat. And most all loads that I work up are somewhere between about 40 degrees and about 60 degrees with no sunshine. I'm in the shade or I'm sitting at the bench, and the ammunition is never in the sun. This is the only way this is going to work. You may have to try several different bullets. You may have to try several different powders. You may have to try several different primers. I've done a piece on the power of different primers. Ideally, the mildest primer to get the job done properly is probably the best primer because it's going to give you probably the best uniformity in most situations. But it could depend on the actual powder that you're using, the bore size, the barrel length. Every time you change things, it changes the whole makeup of the round. This is what hand loading is all about. I'm not describing reloading, I'm describing hand loading. Hand loading is described by a hands-on, experienced person such as myself, all the details of it. And I know the ropes, I know the insides and outs, because I've done this hundreds and hundreds of times for hundreds of rifles. So the advice that you're getting is sage advice. Colder temperatures and one thing and another, it might be important for you to pick perhaps one of Hodgson's extreme powders. That means that they're temperature stable. There are other temperature stable powders made by various manufacturers. That might be an aid to your situation. But where you live, it might not be too much of a benefit to you if you don't have cold weather. But cold weather can be a problem. Hot weather can be a problem. A rifle sitting in the sun and ammunition sitting in the sun is surely going to be a problem. That doesn't happen here. All the ammunition that I load is 3 rounds at a time. You can step right into the shop and load another 3 of another combination. Maybe I've increased the load, maybe I've changed the seating depth, maybe I've changed the primer. If I'm not having results, I use the very best rifle barrels when I build rifles. So right off the bat, I know what I should expect. I should expect some accuracy, indication of accuracy, where I started. And the reason that I should expect that is because I've already been there with that cartridge probably many dozens or maybe hundreds of times and worked up loads for a particular cartridge. There's some that I haven't, so I've got to start fresh, and that just takes a little bit longer to maybe get where you want to be. But I start most of the time where I've left off with previous rifles over many years, many different individual rifles, to end up with what works. This is what I sell is accuracy. I sell experience because I know how to build rifles. I know how to chamber rifles. I know how to work up loads. Develop the most accurate load possible for the situation. And I might add that once you've done this at 100 yards, you might verify these things at 300 yards and see if you can make an improvement, which I do for my rifles. And I'll do it even further on out for my rifles. But it's very difficult to find days to do that because by 9:30 in the morning around here, most days of the year, we've got some breeze or some wind. Right now it's mid-afternoon and the wind's blowing. It's not time to be shooting. But anyway, there's a lot of other information on all my videos to do with loading besides this one. But I felt it necessary to bring this up again because you haven't been there yet. You haven't wrung the rifle out yet. If you're just a reloader and you don't have a chronograph and you don't have a 1/10 micrometer and you're not paying attention. I pay attention to all these details. Invariably, when I'm working with something, a lot of times I'll go from, say, a 3/4 inch group. I know that I've done something right because I've got to a 3/4 inch group. The next time that I shoot and I've changed an aspect, maybe increase the powder charge a half a grain, and maybe from there, maybe I've changed the seating depth about 10 thousandths, shorter. All of a sudden now, let's say, for instance, I've got a 4/10 group. This is what it's all about. It tells you the story right there on the chronograph, and it tells the rest of the story downrange on the target. And it also tells you that you have the ability to shoot. That brings up another aspect. I built rifles for people, shot over the sandbag techniques that I use. Somebody calls and says, I can't get but 2-inch groups out of this rifle. Well, how are you resting it? Well, I'm using a lead sled. Oh boy. You have to use sandbags that have no vibration in them. These various gimmicks that's out here for sale to make money, they might work from time to time, but if you want accuracy, you have to shoot over sandbags that absorb everything about the firing when that gun goes off. The time the trigger breaks and the firing pin falls and it ignites the cartridge and the gun recoils, you don't have anything to disturb the shot. If you've got a good sight picture and proper release of the trigger, it's up to you. So I'll leave it at that here today.